There are people making more money than they ever dreamed of, and they're still broke. Not poor, not unemployed, not struggling to find work. Broke. Every year their income goes up, their lifestyle improves. They buy better things, enjoy more comfort, upgrade more often, and yet, something strange happens. Their financial freedom doesn't grow with their income. Their stress doesn't disappear. Their money problems don't magically go away. And in many cases, they still find themselves waiting for the next paycheck. Which raises a very uncomfortable question. If more money isn't solving the problem, then what is? Because for years, people have been told the same advice. Just earn more money. And honestly, that sounds reasonable. If someone earning a small income struggles, then earning twice as much should fix everything, right? But reality tells a very different story. Because there are people earning salaries their younger selves would have been amazed by, and they still don't feel free. They still worry about money, still feel pressure, still wonder where their paycheck disappeared. And the strange part is, most of them aren't making reckless financial mistakes. They're not gambling away their income. They're not buying private jets. They're not doing anything that looks obviously dangerous. In fact, if you looked at their daily lives, most of their decisions would seem completely normal. A coffee on the way to work, a little online shopping after a stressful day, food delivery because they're tired, a small reward because they worked hard this week. Nothing shocking, nothing irresponsible, nothing that feels like it could change someone's future. And that's exactly what makes this so dangerous. Because the biggest financial traps rarely look like traps when they begin. They look like comfort. They look like convenience. They look like progress. And sometimes, they even look like success. But what if some of the things that feel like progress are actually the reason people stay stuck for years without realizing it? Think about it for a moment. When was the last time you bought something and genuinely asked yourself, will this make my future better? Most people don't think that way. They ask a very different question. Do I want it? Can I afford it? Do I deserve it? And those questions feel completely reasonable. After all, you've worked hard. You've earned the money. Why shouldn't you enjoy it? But here's where things start to get interesting. Because the human brain doesn't experience spending money as a loss. It often experiences it as a reward. Every purchase creates a small emotional payoff, a tiny feeling of excitement, anticipation, satisfaction. It feels good to click buy now. It feels good to upgrade. It feels good to treat yourself. And that's exactly why spending can become so powerful, because over time, people stop using money as a tool and start using it as a source of emotional comfort. Without realizing it, they begin solving emotions with spending, boredom becomes shopping, stress becomes food delivery, hard work becomes a reward purchase, and little by little, money starts leaving their life for reasons that have nothing to do with necessity and everything to do with how they feel in the moment. And the scary part is, this doesn't happen because people are careless. It happens because the brain is constantly searching for ways to feel better right now, not 10 years from now. The brain loves immediate rewards, immediate comfort, immediate pleasure. Future benefits feel distant, but today's rewards feel real. That's why saving money often feels difficult, while spending it feels natural. One decision doesn't seem important. One purchase doesn't seem expensive. One upgrade doesn't seem life-changing. And that's true. By itself, it usually isn't. The problem appears when these decisions start stacking on top of each other, week after week, month after month, year after year. Because financial freedom is rarely destroyed by one massive mistake. It's usually weakened by hundreds of tiny decisions that felt harmless at the time. Decisions that nobody questioned, decisions that everyone else was making, decisions that slowly became part of everyday life. And before people realize what's happening, they're earning more than ever before, but somehow they still feel like they're running in place. They work harder, earn more, upgrade more, spend more, and then repeat the cycle again. At first, it feels like progress, because every upgrade creates the illusion that life is improving. A better phone, a nicer apartment, more subscriptions, more convenience, more comfort. And to be fair, some of these things genuinely improve life. But there's a hidden problem that almost nobody notices, because as income rises, expectations rise too. What once felt like a luxury slowly becomes normal. What once felt exciting becomes ordinary. And what once felt unnecessary starts feeling essential. Without realizing it, people adapt to their new lifestyle so quickly that they stop appreciating it. But they keep paying for it every single month. And that's when the trap begins to tighten. Because now maintaining the lifestyle becomes more important than building freedom. Imagine two people getting the exact same raise at work. Both earn more money starting next month. The first person sees the raise and thinks, "Great, now I can start building a stronger future." The second person sees the raise and thinks, "Finally, now I can afford all the things I've been wanting." Neither person feels wrong. Neither person feels irresponsible. And that's what makes the difference so difficult to notice. Because the consequences don't appear immediately, they appear slowly. One person quietly increases their freedom, while the other quietly increases their expenses. One is creating options for the future. The other is creating obligations. And for a while, both lives may look exactly the same from the outside. But give it a few years, and the gap becomes impossible to ignore. This is why some people can double their income and still feel financially trapped. Every increase in earnings gets absorbed by a more expensive lifestyle. A slightly nicer car, a slightly nicer apartment, a few extra subscriptions, more frequent takeout, more convenience, more upgrades. None of these decisions seem dangerous on their own. But together they create something powerful, a lifestyle that quietly expands to consume every new dollar that enters your life. And once that lifestyle becomes normal, going backward feels painful. Suddenly, earning more money no longer creates freedom. It simply creates a more expensive version of the same life. That's why so many people feel confused, because they're making more than ever before, but they're not actually keeping more than ever before. And this is the moment where most people unknowingly fall into the trap, because they start believing the solution is even more income. If money feels tight, they think they need a bigger raise. If they're stressed, they think they need a higher-paying job. If they're falling behind, they think the answer is simply earning more. But what if the real problem isn't happening when money enters your life? What if it's happening after the money arrives? Because if every increase in income is immediately matched by an increase in lifestyle, then no amount of income will ever feel like enough. And that's when people spend years chasing a finish line that keeps moving farther away, no matter how fast they run. And here's the part that almost nobody talks about, because this trap doesn't just take money. It takes opportunities. Every dollar that disappears into unnecessary lifestyle upgrades is a dollar that can't work for your future. It can't be invested. It can't grow. It can't buy freedom. It can't create options. And at first, that cost is invisible. Nobody notices the investment they didn't make, the opportunity they missed, the freedom they delayed. But time notices. Because money has a strange characteristic. Every dollar you keep has the potential to grow, and every dollar you spend loses that opportunity forever. That's why the real cost of spending is rarely the price tag. It's the future value of what that money could have become. Imagine someone who earns a little more every year, but saves almost none of it. From the outside, their life looks successful. Better gadgets, better experiences, more convenience, more comfort. But beneath the surface, something important is missing. Their income is growing, but their assets aren't. Their lifestyle is expanding, but their freedom isn't. Their spending is increasing, but their options aren't. And one day, they wake up and realize they've spent years improving their standard of living, without improving their financial position. They climbed higher, but somehow ended up in the same place. And this is why the most dangerous financial habit feels completely normal, because it doesn't punish you immediately. If touching a hot stove caused pain 5 years later, people would keep touching it. That's exactly how financial decisions work. The consequences are delayed. The rewards happen now. The costs arrive later. The comfort is immediate. The pressure is gradual. The purchase takes seconds, but the financial impact can last for years. And because the damage happens slowly, people rarely connect the cause with the effect. They just know they earn more than before, yet somehow still don't feel free. So what is this habit? What is the thing that quietly keeps people stuck, even when their income keeps rising? It's the habit of turning every increase in income into an increase in lifestyle. The moment more money arrives, a more expensive version of life arrives with it. A slightly better phone, a slightly nicer car, a slightly larger home, a few more subscriptions, a few more comforts, a few more rewards. And again, none of these things are bad on their own. That's what makes this habit so difficult to spot. The danger isn't the purchase itself. The danger is the pattern. Because when every raise immediately becomes a new expense, income grows, but freedom doesn't. The person feels richer, but doesn't actually become freer. And here's what's fascinating. People rarely notice this happening. Because lifestyle upgrades don't feel like financial decisions. They feel like progress. When someone moves into a nicer place, it feels like success. When they buy something they've wanted for years, it feels like a reward. When they make life more comfortable, it feels deserved. And honestly, sometimes it is deserved. But financial freedom isn't determined by how much comfort you can buy today. It's determined by how many choices you can afford tomorrow. And that's the difference most people miss. They focus on increasing their lifestyle, while financially free people focus on increasing their options. Think about the people who seem calm around money. The people who don't panic when an unexpected expense appears. The people who can leave a bad job, take opportunities, handle emergencies, and sleep peacefully at night. Their secret usually isn't a magical income level. It's the gap between what they earn and what they need to maintain their lifestyle. The larger that gap becomes, the more freedom they have. The smaller that gap becomes, the more trapped they feel. That's why two people earning the exact same salary can live completely different financial lives. One owns their money, while the other is owned by their lifestyle. And once you understand this, something changes. You stop asking, "Can I afford this?" Because that's often the wrong question. A better question is, "What is this costing my future?" You stop seeing every raise as permission to spend more, and start seeing it as an opportunity to create more freedom. Because the goal was never to earn money just to immediately spend all of it. The goal was to use money to build a life with more options, more security, more flexibility, and less stress. And the moment you realize that, the trap starts losing its power. The people who eventually build wealth aren't always the smartest, and they aren't always the highest earners. They simply learn a lesson that most people never do. Every time income increases, freedom should increase too. Not just expenses. Because if your lifestyle grows at the same speed as your income, you'll spend your entire life running faster without ever moving forward. But if even a small part of every raise goes toward your future, something incredible begins to happen. Money stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like possibility. And that's when financial progress finally becomes real. So the next time you earn a little more money, pause for a moment, because that moment is more important than most people realize. It's the moment where you choose between a more expensive life and a freer one. And that single decision, repeated over years, can completely change your financial future. Because the most dangerous financial habit was never about spending money. It was about automatically upgrading your lifestyle every time your income increased. It feels normal. Almost everyone does it. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. If you found this valuable, subscribe for more videos that help you think differently about money. Because sometimes, changing the way you think is the first step toward changing your future.